boys and girls. Welcome to a very, very tough subject here on Isles Talk today, Season 6, Episode 1. My name is Paul Kreischer. I'm your host this evening, and I am going solo tonight. I gave Gary and Joe the night off, so I can't make fun of them for their excuses for missing work tonight. But no, this was brought up last week. There's a lot of confusion, there's a little frustration with the Bridgeport Islanders. So I was asked to do a show to basically say what's up. And one of the reasons why I have said yes to this, and for regular followers, they know this. For those of you who are brand new to the show, welcome. Um, I've been covering the draft now since 2008. Uh, Gary and I have both been up in the press box in Bridgeport years and years and eons ago. Um, I have my own views on the American Hockey League compared to everything, all the other leagues. I don't want to say I know how it works, but I feel like I could probably give you the best description of the American Hockey League right now to give you guys a bigger picture and a bigger understanding of what's actually going on. Yeah, good evening, boys. Lost interest. Yep, no, and that's rightfully so. But I'm going to give you guys, I'm not going to try to give you guys hope on this one. Um, it's it's not as bleak, to be honest with you. Um, no, they won't get ruined in Bridgeport, and I'm going to answer that as the show goes on. I don't think they're going to get ruined. Let's just get that out of the way right now. So, listen, this is why we're going to do the show. We're going to get into the American Hockey League. We're going to define what success is in the American Hockey League. We're going to go into what the Islanders and what I feel the Islanders define as success in the minor leagues. And we're going to finish it up with like the evolution of the draft moving forward and what's that going to do with Bridgeport and free agency and moving forward from there. I think my goal by the end of the show is to give you hopefully a glimpse of hope into the future because there is a future here. There is going to be some kind of a transition moving on. And I'm not just talking about Lou. So, for those of you in the chat room, you guys can chat away. I'm not going to be highlighting your comments until water cooler talk. So, if you guys have any questions, I know. All right, I'll allow this one. That's fine. I like that. And oh God, here we go. It's even worse. So listen, if you guys want to continue chatting it up, go ahead. I'm not going to be putting your chats on the main screen just yet. If you want to save all of your questions for water cooler talk, I will be more than happy to answer all of them. We'll talk the Islanders, the NHL Islanders, when this is all done as well. So, having said that, and by the way, play nice, all of you. The AHL, folks, in my humble opinion, it is the number one league for development of younger players, and in my humble opinion, the second best league in the world. I've seen enough KHL games. I love the Swedish Hockey League games. I watch Liga every once in a while. To me, the American Hockey League is still up there. The KHL is improving. I'm going to give the KHL props for that. But I think if players really want to make it into the National Hockey League, they got to go through the American League. Unless you're like in your mid 20s, like Siplikov has, mid 20s, playing in the KHL, and then you get your shot at the Islanders. That's one way to do it. But for me, the AHL is the best development league, and it's the second best league in the world for right now. And what the AHL does for younger players, and I know a lot of Islander fans, especially younger Islander fans, they want to see the younger players come up and they want them to get really young, really fast, and they think that that's going to make the team better. And that's usually not the case. Okay. The AHL, when a younger player is down there, okay, the AHL is literally a test of a player's character. And what do I mean by that? You don't make the NHL team out of camp. You're just coming out of juniors, you're just coming out of college, and you got that big wake up call that, oh, I'm not making this team. The AHL literally tells you, look, you've got about 3 to 4 seasons to find your niche in the NHL, or you may want to think about a different future. Pretty much what the AHL is. That's what the American Hockey League is. It's going to test your character. You didn't make it in the big club. You have to put in the work. You have to do all this other stuff, the practices, you name it, whatever. And you've got some maturing to do. Sometimes, most of the time, it's physical. Sometimes it's the mental part. And sometimes it is attitude, depending on the player. It's a growing up phase. The problem with the American Hockey League is that you only have about 3 or 4 years to do it. After that, there are some limitations. So if you are a younger player and you have a contract, and we'll just call it with any NHL team, and you clear waivers, you're allowed to play. But as part of the development rules, as part of the collective bargaining agreement in the American Hockey League, you can ice 18 players in one game. 13 of them basically have to be entry level, meaning anything less than 3 seasons, right? And then you get a couple of veterans who can fill in those spots, and they are your mentors. They are the ones that might take you up and over because they've been around for a while. Those who are on AHL contracts, they can be signed by any NHL team if they wanted to at any time, but they are there to help the younger players become professionals on how to be a professional. And what has happened with Bridgeport this year, we'll get into. The profession, the veterans for the most part have been holding their own. But there's another key factor here that needs to be taken into place when it comes to the American Hockey League. Injuries. Injuries play a huge role. If a younger player gets injured, it hampers their development. In the case of the Islanders, the New York Islanders, a lot of injuries. They basically got hit with a plague this year. We saw quite a few veterans and rookies make their NHL debuts or get recalled back up, and that mixes up the dynamic of the team. And then you have a lot of injuries to the Bridgeport Islanders this year, and I'm going to demonstrate just how bad it really is. Okay? When you have American Hockey League players getting injured, you have to call up players from the East Coast Hockey League, better known as the Worcester Railers. Those players are still getting used to playing in the East Coast Hockey League, and now they're coming up to a more structured and faster league. So, do injuries play a role? No doubt. It literally is a shake your head. It is what it is moment. And usually what happens is that for the Bridgeport Islanders, and we'll get into injuries right now. I'm going to show you guys something. The AA, the division, the Atlantic Division that they're in. Okay, Providence, Hershey, Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, Charlotte, some of those top tier teams. They don't have a lot of rookies. They're not there. Some of them are second years, some of them are in their third years, and we'll get into that. But with the amount of injuries that the Islanders have had, both in the NHL and the American League, you want to find out why the Islanders have done so, I don't want to say poorly. Check this out. That, boys and girls, are all the rookies. Oh, excuse me, not all the rookies. Give me one moment. There we go. All the rookies playing in the American Hockey League this year. Scroll all the way down to that number 15. Okay? 15 rookies this year. If you go down, I'll tell you right now, Riley Piercy's going to play more than 20 by the time the season's over. Henry Tikkanen's already got 26. You're looking at 9 rookies. 9 rookies playing a quarter of the season or more. That's rough. That's rough on any team. That's rough on any coach. That's rough on any general manager. It doesn't matter what happens. 19 rookies. A lot of them were not ready for the American Hockey League. Just the way it goes. So this has literally been a season where it's a trial by fire for the Bridgeport Islanders. Thrown into the fire is probably a better way to describe it. So no, they have not had success on the records. Their record indicates, okay, they're bad. I'm not even posting it up. We're not even going to go there. But what defines success in the American Hockey League? Okay. Most teams in the American Hockey League believe that if you have developed a player or two, they come up to the NHL. They don't look out of place. They even find a roster spot for them. That's considered a success from a lot of other teams, especially teams like Boston, Tampa Bay, Vegas is another one. Those teams that usually go all out, they're not worried so much anymore about winning records. They may still have them, but you bring in a player to help the team out, get them as far as they can, that's defined success. Now, the other way is winning records, getting that team into the playoffs, showing these younger players that there is actually another level of education that's in between the American League and the National League playoffs. Whether it's a 3-game series, 5-game series, 7-game series, it's a learning process. It's an education. Some other teams have adopted that. So when it comes to the Islanders now, what defines success for the Isles? Okay. It is the first one, folks. It is the first one. They are more concerned for right now. They are more concerned about grooming a few players. And if they make it out of the American League and they show that they can play in the NHL, that's a win for them. Okay. And the reason why I say that is that if we go back to what I had said before about a younger player coming in, you've got 3 or 4 years to basically show them what you can do. Well, in the case of the New York Islanders, the 3 draft years that we are now talking about in terms of development in Bridgeport: 2020, 2021, and 2022. And for those of you who may not remember, I hope you do, those were the COVID Cup years, 2020, 2021, where we traded Kyle Palmieri and JG Pageau. The issue for that short-term success, and they were legitimate runs. For the younger Islander fans, those were your first Eastern Conference Finals. Embrace that. Always remember that. But now the future has finally come to the present. And what has happened with Bridgeport in 2020, 2021, no first or second round picks. None. None. 2022, you do have a second round pick in Kelly Odelius, but he was injured all of last year, and he's just trying to work his game back now. So there's a little bit of a struggle. You also have Tristan Lennox, who is a third round pick. He has also been injured, and he's just getting back right now as well. The other thing with the Islanders and what they've done so in the past with their drafting is that they have drafted more college players. That's a Lou thing. That's always been a Lou thing. So, not mentioning Cole Eiserman because he's 2024, you're missing players like Danny Nelson, Cameron Berg, Finley is another one. Zach Schultz, I don't know if he'd be ready to play in Bridgeport either. But those 3 forwards probably could have been in Bridgeport this season right now, especially Berg, especially Nelson. So the question is, we know Finley's not coming back. He's staying for 1 more year. Cameron Berg is now finishing up his collegiate career with North Dakota. Hopefully he signs with the Islanders. The big question for everyone here is Danny Nelson. For those of you who do not know, Notre Dame's coach just retired after a very successful and lengthy career. Excuse me. Do the Islanders want to bring in Nelson? Does Danny Nelson want to stay in college? That's going to be the question. Okay. So the issue with the Islanders in Bridgeport specifically this season, no first or second round picks in those first 2 years, no first round picks at all for those 3 years. College players, you're looking at 3 years, 4 years, depending. So they're a little late getting here. And also the other one, the Islanders have drafted overagers. Matthew Maggio, I believe Dufour was one as well. Justin Gill is another overager. But these were players who were coming in where the Islanders felt when they were, when these young players were done with their junior careers, they could fit right in with the American League. And they have. And they have. But you bring in these overagers, you draft them, and then you slowly start bringing in some of the college players. It's going to take at least a year or 2 for these players to adapt, because when they're overagers, they start in their junior leagues before they hit, the Canadian Junior League. Took them a year or 2 to really start to show what they could do. And that's why they got drafted as overagers. They did better as they got older. Now, some of these overagers, they took that 1-year step trying to get adjusted. And now they're trying to, find their niche to see where they are in the National Hockey League. And things are taking longer. It's just the way it goes sometimes. Okay. The other thing that the Islanders have done, which is what many, many teams do, some draft picks were some of the youngest in the draft. Simon Holmstrom was one. Kallio Delius was another. I know Malinin is another young defenseman. I think he's in Finland, one of the younger defensemen as well. Going back to the college kids real quick, Thomas Machu, he's now in Providence as a freshman. All of these draft picks are just taking their time to develop. And this year seems to be like the beginning of everything for the minor league system. That's really what it is. There's a lot of young players who are experiencing pro hockey for the first time. And the other thing that the Islanders have done, they've signed college free agents. Mark Atcomb, college. He went to Connecticut, if I'm not mistaken. Kyle McLean. Okay. I think Hudson Fashion was a college player too, but he had some American Hockey League experience already. But you get where I'm going with this. College free agency has helped the Islanders plug in some holes where they're needed. And we're starting to see right now that the college route seems to be the way to go. At least the last, these 3 draft years, 2020, 2021, 2022, college was the way to go. Okay. And I think that's going to be the evolution of every NHL team. And I'm going to get to that in a minute. Now, I've had questions about the coach. Okay. Is it a coaching problem? My answer to that for right now is no. And the reason why I say that is this. These are your top 6 players, ladies and gentlemen. Some of them you know. Chris Terry, 30-something years old. Brian Pinto, 29, or I think he just turned 30. Liam Foodie's 25. I think he's soon to be 26. Adam Beckman just showed up, but he's 24. The issue with Adam Beckman right now is that he is approaching that 3-year, 4-year window. So if the Islanders wanted to bring him back, he would be a free agent there on a 1-year deal. The problem that players like Adam Beckman have is that, once he's hit that 3 or 4-year threshold or that game amount, you don't have a lot of options. So he's actually playing for a contract. And if he doesn't get a contract in the American Hockey League, players like Beckman, they go over to Europe. Ouch. Maybe they get a shot with the KHL. But then they're off to the Swiss League. They're off to Liga. And the problem that a lot of the players have is that they're adjusting to the wider rinks. They're adjusting to the game over in Europe, which isn't the same here. So then there's a struggle. And then the question is, how much of a career do they really have left? So you're looking at 24, 25 as a very pivotal time in a lot of young players' careers where they may not hit their prime yet, but they're not, they may be, in fact, late bloomers. But getting back to the original thought here, Samuel Bolduc is now 25 years old. Alex Jeffries is 20. He was 23 when the season started. He turned 24 in November. So he's going to be 24 when this season starts, but he's only going to have roughly 70, 80 games under his belt total. And he's putting up decent numbers for his first full season. He, like a lot of young pros, has had his slumps. But the point is this. It's not the coach, because the older players, they know what they need to do, and they're there. The 22-year-olds, the 23-year-olds, 21-year-olds, they haven't gotten it yet. All right. Kowalski is, I believe, an East Coast Hockey League Coach of the Year, and he's an American Hockey League Coach of the Year. He's won big. He's gone, quite far, I believe, with the Albany Devils way back when. He's a legit coach. But again, the younger players are now under pressure cookers. You got to show up. What are they going to do in the offseason? And that's the thing. This is going to be their first offseason after their first professional year. There's a lot of work to do. Okay. So where is Bridgeport at this point? Okay. Will you go away? Go away. Go away. Go away. Thank you. Family. Sorry. So what are we looking at here with the Islanders? The Bridgeport Islanders. Well, take your pick. The 72-73 New York Islanders, the 1999-2000 Islanders, the 2008 Islanders. What do they all have in common? They were starting points. They're all starting points. This is the repercussions of going for the Stanley Cup 5 years ago, 4 years ago. This is why nothing got replenished, and this is what happens. This is a short-term effect. I think it will be. And when we were defining success before, I think things are now going to change with Bridgeport because, yes, for right now, you're developing a couple of players. They are going to the NHL. That's the short-term success. The long-term success for this franchise moving forward is to get into the playoffs to give these kids a bigger education. Very much like what Hershey did and what Tampa did with Syracuse. Okay. We can go the Charlotte Checkers in Carolina. We can go on and on here. Okay. I think that's a transition. I think that's the goal eventually for the Islanders. Are we going to get there? My answer to that is yes. Cal Ritchie kind of helps with that in a sense because now in 2023, you basically have a full complement of draft picks. 2024, you have a full complement of draft picks. If the Islanders decide to draft all the way through, you're going to have another full complement of draft picks in 2025. So, yes, the road to all of this has been tough. But, despite what you may think, the Islanders are, in fact, trying to improve from just bringing players up to growing the overall organization from the NHL and the AHL down. And for those who can't make it, the East Coast Hockey League is still, don't get me wrong, I've watched plenty of those games too. That's a fun league. It is. It's an absolute fun league to watch. To me, it's a little more on the intramural side. I think the AHL has a little more structure. But speaking of the draft, what does that entail? What should the Islanders continue to do to help with Bridgeport? It's like I said before, free agents, a lot of free agents in the American Hockey League, they don't want to go to Europe. So there's always going to be some kind of free agency for Bridgeport to sign a player or two if they need to. And that's where we're going with this. Free agency is still going to be the way for a little while longer. Cameron Berg, I'm hoping, is a Bridgeport Islander next season. Danny Nelson's going to be a little so-so. But in terms of the draft, listen, I said this on the last show before. Picks and prospects have lost value. Not the value of zero. Don't get me wrong. There is value in all of these prospects and picks. But what the American Hockey League is doing is that they're showing the actual value of these players. And it's up to the players themselves to increase their own value. And I think in a couple of seasons now, and you've heard this probably before, especially on this show, there are going to be Canadian hockey players, junior players, going to college if they don't get drafted, even at 18. So then you're going to get the Canadian style of play mixed in with the growth of the college playing style. And then, boys and girls, I'm going to say in another 2 or 3 years, college free agency is going to be phenomenal. I think that's going to be some of the ways to go. And I think that's going to improve Bridgeport. It's going to improve Providence. It's going to improve the entire American Hockey League. And I think at some point, the American Hockey League may have to adjust, what they feel as if it wants to stay a development league, that's fine. But they have to maybe adjust those numbers that we were talking about before. Maybe not 13 players on entry level deals. Maybe you cut it down to 9, 10, something like that. And then these college free agents fill the void. And I think the games would absolutely be better. And I think these college players coming out, and even former junior players, I think they have a much better chance of getting into the NHL moving forward. A lot of rambling on my part. I'm trying to make sure I hit everything. So yeah, that's it with Bridgeport. And again, the injuries I want to say this again with the injuries this year. Julian Gauthier, Frederick Karlstrom, two forwards who were supposed to put up big numbers offensively for the Islanders. They've been injured pretty much all season. At the beginning of the season, it was supposed to be Hogberg and Skark in goal. That hasn't happened for the most part. Again, we said before in the show, Isaiah George, Grant Hutton, a bunch of other defensemen were called up. Other AHL defensemen were injured. Injuries play a huge part in this league. Do I think the Islanders, all being equal here, would this record be as bad? No. I will say this, though. There are times when I turn off the TV before the second period with this team. The inexperience and the youth shows. But again, when it's the American Hockey League, a lot of it is on the players. What do they want to do by the time they're 25? That's where we go from there. Do I think the Islanders are going to improve? Yes. Another year under their belts? Yes. Conditioning? Absolutely. And we'll see what happens with the free agency. We'll see what happens with drafting moving forward. Again, heading into this summer, guys, I'm not going to lie. I'm ready to grab the popcorn. Sit back and watch, see what, if anything happens, and we'll go from there. But for me, I still feel this team is better than the record that it's holding, but the amount of youth and inexperience at the professional league is certainly there. And it's very tough to ask third, fourth, fifth, sixth rounders, even seventh rounders if they're there. Actually, Tikkanen was a seventh rounder. Seventh rounders to play winning hockey in your first year professionally. That's tough to do. So, here we go. Questions, comments, concerns from all of you guys. Yeah, you guys are wow. Okay, fire away. After pick 6 is a crapshoot. You're not wrong, Angie. I think that might actually go to 7 or 8 now. There seems to be some improvement. There might be a player or two who were originally in the top 5. They have a chance of just sliding down because other players have been improving. So we'll see what happens there. Will Cameron Burr contract be a two-way or an AHL contract? Um, I would well, first off, he's still in the Frozen Four, and I think if the Islanders play this smart, which they've done before, especially with Alex Jeffries, I would imagine he's going to get a PTO to play the rest of the season with Bridgeport, and then he'll get hopefully he'll get a contract because I believe he doesn't have to sign with the Islanders, or he could sign with another team, I believe, in August. I believe that's the college free agency way. I'm not entirely sure, but for now, I would say a PTO, and then yeah, I think it would be a two-way contract. In my years following the Islanders, has to be the worst I have seen in regards to injuries. It's insane. I call it a plague, Thomas. I it's absolutely the injury. It's a plague, and sometimes it's just unexplainable. I'm not worried about the development in Bridgeport, Mark. And for those who have been following the show for years now, thank you. I don't look at players' first years. I really don't. Um, you're asking basically two East Coast Hockey League goalies to get you through the rest of the season. No, I truly never look at the younger players' first years, and it doesn't matter whether it's in the NHL, the American League, or whatnot. Um, they look like a bunch of rookies, and it shows. And there's a lot of savvy veteran moves made by savvy veterans, um, or the younger players who are learning those savvy veteran moves, and they're exploiting Bridgeport sometimes. If this, to your point though, Mark, if this happens again next season, overhaul something. But 19 rookies this year, with at least 7 or 8 of them playing almost more than a quarter of the season. That's alarming for me. You gotta give Bridgeport a little bit of a break there, um, because they're not totally to blame for the amount of rookies playing this year. Randy, that's right. And goalies are weird creatures. 4 years, he was a seventh rounder. Absolutely. And that's also correct, Tommy. These rounds, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, very few players have NHL success, which is why I think Lou went that college route anyway. The third through seven, granted, Islanders have had some previous experience, success with it way back when, but you're really hoping that some of these kids can play even 100 games in the National Hockey League, rounds 3 through 7, but it does depend on their development. Has Enval shown enough lately not to buy him out? You know what, Tim? I'm gonna say let's see how he finishes. Let's see how he finishes. Um, so I guess my answer is no, he hasn't. I want to see him, and I want to see that line continue to do well. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the total team, in this case, a total line package as well. I'm worried we had so many late rounders after trading our first two rounders away. Pipeline finally back to open again. Yes, it is. And I did not touch on 2023 because those 2023, that's your Cal Ritchie, Danny Nelson years. They don't turn 20 probably until like now. So when the season starts next year, they should all be 20 years old. I didn't include them in, but now we actually have a first rounder from 2023, and that helps extremely. My concerns when it comes to the changes, right? When Lou says changes are going to be made, it can't be one small change. Agreed, and call it a day. Needs to be changed and needs more talent. They also need to be active in free agency, no doubt. Not just signing bottom six old players. No, I agree with that. I agree. I know it just seems look, and I know a lot of people are trying to blame Chris Lamorello for this, but give me one moment. Name me a first rounder to play for Bridgeport since 2018, drafted by the Islanders since 2018. It's only one. It's only one. And I just went over those numbers. We haven't had a first round pick or a second round pick in 2020, 2021. We did not pick up a player off of waivers or anywhere else in a trade to make up for those drafts. Okay. It's not necessarily on Chris Lamorello. Moves had to be made at that time for the Islanders to do what they did. It's not always, the positive to all of that is that things, A, they can't get any worse. But B, Mark, I'm with you on this. I want to see the growth next season. Okay, it's like I said before. I've turned off the TV watching these games by the second period. If they're losing, but they're kind of in it, like in every game, I call that improvement. I think they're going to be better if everyone stays healthy. But it's more impactful in the American League. But I get what you're saying. I would love to see Bridgeport in the playoffs every year. For me, that's a big selling point. It would be. We're not there yet. It's like the 72, 73 Islanders, the 99, 2000 Islanders, call it the 08 Islanders. It's the beginning of something hopefully bigger, big. Why didn't the Islanders grab Walston back when Boston placed him on waivers? Could have sent him down to Bridgeport and let him play quality minutes. Maybe that road has already been crossed, Charles. I don't know. I do agree. I don't like losing depth just in general. I don't like losing the depth. I think that's one of the key successes, the keys for success in any organization. So I didn't like losing Wallstrom just for nothing. But I don't know. Maybe that was it. Able to watch, he sank in the draft because he's smaller than the prototype. Absolutely, and that's what happens sometimes. Next year on defense, who stays, who goes? Oh my God. You guys are, and believe me, I'm not even trying to cop out here. With eating popcorn and just seeing what the heck happens. I really don't have a clue. I haven't even asked around yet, and I'm not gonna lie. I'm enjoying watching the Islanders absolutely drive the naysayers mad. I love it. Not that I'm saying the Islanders are going to make the playoffs, but they're showing resiliency. They're becoming a pain in everyone's butt. They just refuse to lose. They refuse to just give up on this season. And I kind of like that. I like the resiliency. I'm not going to lie, though. I'm getting tired of always playing underdog. But here we are again. It's what these guys do. And they're driving all the naysayers mad. I love it. Me, I really am just kicking back, having popcorn, watching this show go on. So on defense next year, I think Noah Dobson is back. Romanoff would be back. I think Boquist would be back. Only because I think Boquist let that slip that the Islanders were talking to him prior to the season. I think he might be back. I love his offense. Granted, defensively, okay, needs help, no doubt. But offensively, the Islanders have been needing that. Pernovich, for me, I think he would be the seventh defenseman. I think he'd get a 1-year deal. He might be our Sebastian Aho. That's fine. Or even Thomas Hickey, if that could happen. I don't know if he has, Hickey's IQ, but you know where I'm going with that. Um as for Pellick, Pullock, and Mayfield, yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I don't know. I really don't know. And I think that's what we're gonna find out. Thoughts on talks about next year's All-Star game being canceled or watered down? I think it should be postponed to 227. You know what? The Four Nations really did a great job of what they did. I wouldn't mind a smaller version to that or something to build up the Olympics with. I wouldn't mind that. I don't want the skills competition. I'm not into any of that. All right, I'm just going to call myself old on that one. I'm not worried about that. Um, I also wouldn't mind seeing a future Young Stars game mixed in with, I don't know if you can go Team USA or against Team Sweden or Team Russia or whatnot. But if they can come up with a format just to do like a small showcase for the All Star game, I wouldn't be against it. I wouldn't mind the All Star game on 2027, but you know if they can find a way to pack the place on one night before the Olympics, go for it. Um, and by 2027, everything should be built in New York. And I think that's where Matthew was alluding to here, but that's just an educated guess. The racetrack's going to be built. The hotel, I have no clue anymore, but everything else should be done. So maybe there'll be more of an attraction, but I get where Matthew's going with that. But in terms of a game, I don't know if I would want a 3-on-3 or a 4-on-4, like Olympic style game or two. I don't know. Maybe turn it into a weekend. That wouldn't be bad. Let everyone spend a weekend on Long Island. Why not? Somebody's golf course would be open. Dal Cole, he was 2014, but I think he's in the German second tier. Oh no, crystal ball question. Out of who you expect to be on the Bridgeport roster next season and should be there, could you expect to have any success this year if needed due to injury, a la Isaiah George? Brian, are you talking about NHL players? If the NHL Islanders get injured, who do I expect to call up? Is that what you're asking? Okay, yeah, I would definitely bring up Isaiah George. I'm definitely okay with Alex Jeffries. Again, injuries. And again, let's have fun with this. Nothing is set in stone. If Cal Ritchie started the season in Bridgeport and there were injuries, give the kid 20 games, hopefully 20, 25 games, in Bridgeport, bring him up. I think Cal Ritchie could fill that role. If Aiden Fulp comes back, I'm not going to lie. I think Aiden Fulp, the right handed defenseman, might be able to do something. And guys, I'll give him a little bit of credit here. Samuel Bolduc, he's playing left and right defense, and he's been given the alternate captain letter on several games now. There's a maturity level that he has apparently reached with the team that Kowalski really likes. Maybe that's a missing piece. I don't know. But if Bolduc misses, you know, you know, misses the team just by a little bit, but he really impresses Patrick Waugh, he might be a call up. but we'll see what happens. But there has been some maturity coming out of um, Samuel Bolduc as well. There's a couple of players in there that I wouldn't mind. And you know what? Cameron Berg, he's going to have to put in the work. He's going to have to put in the effort. But if something were to happen to Casey Cizikas or Kyle McLean, I would try to give Berg another shot or give Berg a shot. Liam Foodie for me, he's got the speed. I didn't think he was out of place either. But I'm just talking about cups of coffee here. Nothing long term. Jeffries, off-season conditioning. It's going to be with off-season conditioning with all of them. I can't. For me, I'm looking more towards training camp. But there's a couple of players who could fill in that role, and I think they're not going to look out of place next season. Yes, patience is a virtue. Got to trust your scouts. Yeah, Holmstrom. Holmstrom's the only first rounder. That's it. You can't blame Chris Lamorello for just that. No second rounders either. Yeah, I know. 2025. I hate you, Randy. Am I upset if the Islanders trade the 2025 pick? Depending on where we are. I'm not going to lie. I'm nitpicking here. 12, 13, 14, 15. I wouldn't be upset if we traded the pick. And that's coming from someone who enjoys doing the draft. Okay. Depending on who's there. Okay. Like I said, there's a couple of players who could probably slide down. A la Cole Eiserman, a la Danny Nelson, a couple of other players that have happened before. So maybe. You know what? Some of them could replace, and that's why I have always said that the Islanders are going to be in transition. For next season, I think it's Anders Lee's job to lose. Anthony Duclair, if he gets injured or if Siplikov gets injured, putting Alex Jeffries on the third line is not going to hurt the Islanders. It's not. But if injuries arise, that should be his time. Lou did say the team has to get younger and changes will be made. He did. It does take two. And we can some of you guys probably have heard this on other media outlets already. There are quite a few general managers who were very annoyed that Cal Ritchie went to Lou. Okay. Teams can't stand that. Sometimes they hate working with Lou because Lou just makes a great move or two. In terms of getting younger, we'll see. We'll see. Do I think he means it? Sure. Does he have to really show it this time? I think he does. And will he? This might be the draft to do it, guys. This might be the draft to do it only because of where the Islanders are, where they might end up in the draft. There's a possibility for all of that. So we'll see how that goes. Agreed, Randy. Lewis said a lot of things. Absolutely. Yes. That's basically it. Yeah. The winning now mentality for those years, though, was absolutely needed. But this is the repercussions of not replenishing the system with any kind of prospect since then. Maggio. Listen, Maggio's a third line right winger right now for Bridgeport. I don't think he's out of place. I would call it a sophomore slump. But again, the amount of injuries going on, the plague, he hasn't played bad. I would like to see a little bit more out of him. There's still some time left in the game, but again, other coaches now from other teams, they got a playbook on him, right? And one of the things I had said last season was he was finding success with Ruslan Ishakov. I wanted to see how he was going to play without him this year. and the numbers are down a little bit, but he really is turning into a solid third line um, player for Bridgeport, which is pretty much where I had him. So again, I don't think it's necessarily Maggio. I think it's the whole team trying to really find themselves. But next year, next year's going to really tell quite a bit. No, no, they are here to torture all of you. All of you. I love it. Yeah. Playing Montreal next and Columbus. Yeah. Yeah. These are all big games. Your playoffs again started or they started already, folks. But these are the big ones. Yeah. These are your big games. Do we still have the Al Pacino one? No. Nope. Gary has that somewhere. We don't play Boston again? Okay. There we go. Let's go Islanders. Yeah, we go as Sorokin goes. When he's on his game, we streak. I got to agree with that. I it's certainly healing Hogberg, but you know, at some point Hogberg's got to get in a game or two. D'Angelo's a great question, Tim. Um, does Scott Mayfield still have a future here? Does Ryan Pulock still have a future here? We're pretty sure for right now, D'Angelo's gonna, you know, look. The Islanders gave D'Angelo a shot, probably the only shot. Would he probably welcome a year back? Probably. We're a little, we're a little full. I mean, unless they make Scott Mayfield the seventh defenseman. You know, it's an expensive seventh defenseman, but you know, we'll see what happens. He seems to fit the system. D'Angelo does. So yeah, I really am in a wait and see mode. I love the fact that the Islanders are just torturing us. They won't go away. And I really haven't looked into the trade yet because for me, I enjoy the summer. I really enjoy the summer. And I love getting away from hockey itself. And by making all the trades now, you know, if we start doing all the drafts now and the trades now, and then next thing you know, it's training camp and then the regular season, and then we got to go through that grind. I don't do that. I really don't do that anymore. That's how burnout goes. And he did. Yeah. He did put in a good defense, and there are changes already. That's the kicker. Are some of these changes going to be permanent? That's the one thing. Going to be at the game on Saturday. Beautiful. Enjoy the game. That should be a lot of fun. All right. Randy's going to tell us that we're going to beat Calgary. That's just Randy. Yeah, see, I agree with that. They should change the All Star game to a best on best in the American Hockey League. Listen, folks, they I don't pay too much attention to the All Star game in the AHL, only because the players vote on that one player to go. Usually, it's like the best player, but it's just like, you know, put some of those top players on there and go at it. It was the German second tier. Okay, so Michael Del Cole is playing in the German second tier. Okay. Expect to call up and make an impact. Okay. Again, players that would probably be better served developing in Bridgeport. All right, so let's have fun here. Danny Nelson, if he's on the team, develop in Bridgeport that first year. Um, Same thing with Cameron Burke. Cal Ritchie, but Cal could be short term. Oh my God. I just thought of that. Cal Ritchie, Danny Nelson, Cameron Berg at center. Even if Brian Pino wanted to come back. Oh, that's nasty. Brian Pino is your first line center. Cal Ritchie is your second. Danny Nelson is your third. Cameron Berg is your fourth. Yes, please. Oh my God, yes, please. I mean, for me, that sounds sexy. That's like a lot of our prospects with one good player, one good veteran right there. Holy Lord. And I wouldn't mind Alex Jeffries with Cal Ritchie on a second line, even with Maggio. Ooh, ooh, that wouldn't sound bad at all. And this is the nice thing, Brian. I'm coming to a point where it's like some of these kids could get called up and not look out of place. Like we're almost there. So no, I'm a little more optimistic for next year, obviously because we can't go any lower. But no, in terms of calling up and not looking out of place, Bridgeport may have quite a few, and that would be the hope. Pope could have been out for the season. Isles has been having a little praise, but Mitchell, he's playing. Yeah, no, they've all been playing decent. And listen, Aiden Fulp was a little personal favorite of mine. I have always liked his game. Um, Not a lot of offense to him. I really thought, and I don't know if Fulp really fits Patrick Waugh's system anymore. I don't know. Um, he would be probably a replacement for Grant Hutton, who is going to be a UFA. So Aiden Fulp coming up and just playing a decent game, I don't think that would be an issue. Don't expect any goals from Aiden Fulp. Watch him score 5 goals while he's up there, but that's just the way it goes. Bull Duke, yeah, forgot he existed. Yeah, he's still there. He's still there. He's playing decent. He really is. And again, there's a maturity level that apparently he's reached, which is probably what he's needed to begin with. Holmstrom should have been a second rounder. Who cares? He's here now. He's producing. Yeah, that and I don't want to say who cares, a little unprofessional of me, but it's already 2019. Like those draft years, it is what it is at this point. A lot of those players aren't even playing in the American League anymore. Most of them are gone. They're all playing in Europe. Yeah, McQueen might slide down. I don't know how far he would slide down though. Tony D'Angelo getting an extension. Maybe. Maybe. Do you want him on the team, Tim? That's fine. I have no problem with Tony D'Angelo coming back. I love the passing that I'm seeing. I love the vision that he has. You know, as they're playing more games, they're all fitting the system. I like this one. Envol's sole purpose is to ruin their draft position. Look, in all honesty, folks, there's no difference pretty much between 8 and 15 this year. Really, really isn't. And I would love to get into the top 10, top 12, only to see someone maybe slip down. After that, but eight, I'm going to call it 8 through 15 right now. You're still looking at a minimum 3 years. Minimum 3 years. Yeah, it's tricky. It is tricky if they move a right-handed D man. It's just the way it goes. You asked me this question. I'm no. You asked me this question like a week or two ago. No, I don't see that change. Chances of a lockout next year? No, no. That's not going to happen because of what happened at the Four Nations. the NHL right now has really put a big stamp right now of approval by fans. They attracted quite a few fans. There's TV deals that still need to happen, and a lockout will absolutely put the NHL back a couple of years. So I'm going to say no to that. They're going to get that done. There's always one, folks. There's always one. There may be more than one in this chat room, okay? More than one. I've already beaten him in both. He knows this. I've already beaten him in both. It's bad. All right. Any other legit hockey questions here? Yeah, no problem. No, there's no answering. Yeah, there I don't think there's gonna be any changes. Could Isles win the cup? Again, there's one, there's two, there's three of these in here. Randy's laughing right now. Could the Islanders win the cup? Sure. They got to get into the playoffs first, but Randall. So, all right, listen, boys and girls, this has been a lot of fun. So, listen, Bridgeport is going to get better. This is literally a first year startup for Bridgeport. A lot of injuries to both the NHL, AHL, and East Coast Hockey Leagues that the Islanders are affiliated with. But I think it's going to show later on. There's a full complement, almost a full complement from 23, 24. We'll see about 25. And the evolution of college free agency is going to be huge. When the Canadian junior players are allowed to transfer over to college, get a few years in, and then they make that transition into the American League or the National Hockey League. So, yeah, thank you. Never surrender. No, do not do Corey Hart on me. No, stop it. We're not doing that. But that's the American Hockey League, folks. It's a test of character, and unfortunately for this year's Bridgeport Islanders, thrown into the fire. They were thrown into the fire this year. Some of their future is going to be determined on what Lou does or doesn't do this offseason, and we'll go from there. But I think for the players that are there now, if they're going to be there next year, and I've said this all the time, and Jill makes an emphasis of this, conditioning is going to be solid, has to be solid for every single player coming back to Bridgeport, because now they are going to set that standard. They're going to set that example for the drafts of 24, 25, 26 moving forward. We'll see if Cameron Berg, Danny Nelson, and Cal Ritchie are going to be on this team. Time will tell. So, but that is Bridgeport. There is a future. It's going to be there. No, they can't get worse, Tommy. They can't get worse. It's only uphill from here. But I think what the transition is finally going to be for the Islanders, and this is my hope, is that we go from one or two players moving up into the NHL, not looking out of place, to an organization where you have a minor league system that is in the playoffs every year or close to it, with 1 or 2 years making a deep run, because that's going to further the development of a lot of these younger players. So, again, folks, thank you so much. No. They know I'm a DJ, folks. They love pissing me off like this. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who are trying not to piss me off here, please, please, please follow and like us on Facebook. Don't forget to follow us on X at Isles Talk. Facebook is also on Isles Talk, and please hit that like button on this show. Hit the subscribe button on YouTube. All the numbers have been going up. We're approaching 900 followers on Facebook. We've got over 100 subscribers now on YouTube. We would love to get those numbers up. You guys have been phenomenal. Yeah, I agree with this. If the Islanders can stay healthy starting next season, you will see a lot better team. Basically, all season spare parts. Absolutely. Cutler. Okay, that's it. Boys and girls, thank you so much. I can't take this anymore. That's not even a song. I couldn't even come up with a song. I've already been butchered. Thank you. We might be back next week. We'll see what's going on. And we'll see how long the Islanders can torment you. So we'll see you next week. Enjoy the rest of your night. Enjoy the rest of your week. Let's go Islanders. And good luck.